Hey, it's David Fine for Retro Wrestling Rewind. Don't worry, we're going to get back to the next great episode in just a minute. And I got a question for you. Do you feel like every time you make a payment to your health or life insurance policy, you're making a payment to the multi-billion-dollar industry, and you're feeling like you've been totally smacked down? You know, wrestling reference, SmackDown. Anyway, there are better options. Deal with an independent broker, someone who does the shopping just for you. Timmy Hudson has been in the business for 4 years, and he is certified for health, Medicare, life, and even annuities. Give Timmy Hudson a call at 770-361-8271. Once again, give Timmy Hudson a call at 770-361-8271. There are not many things in life that are guaranteed except for two things. Number one, Timmy Hudson will treat you just like family, no matter if you want health, Medicare, life, or even annuities. And that Alex G's and David Fine's retro wrestling recap and recall of Clash of the Champions 31 begins now.
Colonel Parker has been scouring the globe and has found Kurosawa. Can he and Mighty Ming defeat Road Warrior Hawk and the Stinger? Alex Wright will go head-to-head with Diamond Dallas. Paul Orndorff says he deserves another shot at the WCW World TV title. He'll get it tonight against the Renegade. There's 5 men and a lady in a tag match. Can the Harlem Heat get another run at the gold? Will the Colonel find romance in the middle of the mayhem? It's been an emotional time for Hulk Hogan, but tonight the WCW World Champion will once again enter the Dungeon of Doom. And Big Van Vader will take on former allies Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, who will survive this world-class 2-on-1 collision. Find out tonight on Clash of the Champions on TBS.
Welcome in to Retro Wrestling Rewind. This is episode number 9. And unfortunately, even though I'm the one who picked this, we are going back in the old time machine.
It's not my fault.
Yes, for once, it's not Alex G's fault. Clash of the Champions 31, live from Daytona Beach, the Ocean Center. It took place August the 6th of 1985. 95. You know what I was doing in 95? I was a freshman in college. What were you doing in 95?
Drinking beer and chasing girls.
Well, that's awesome. I wish I had been doing that, but 2 years later, I met my wife, and then 4 years later, we got married. But, you know, that's neither here nor there.
And I was still drinking beer and chasing women. So.
Yeah. And 95, I was still doing the wrestling. There was 3 years into my ring announcer stuff, and that's for another show. But that'll be on, folks. Kind of another behind the scenes thing after episode 25. So it'll be in about 2 months' time. We're gonna open up a Patron, as Conrad Thompson would call it, a Patreon account, where we're gonna have extra content. We're gonna have a bunch of other crap. I mean, you can get merchandise. We're gonna be having that.
You know what I'm considering doing? Much like some of the women in the wrestling business, I will be auctioning off some of my underwear. So you better get on that. So it's gonna be awesome.
Well, I mean that's gonna drop. That's that. Yeah. But let's get into this match. I mean, or this card. It was, like I said, from the Ocean Center, Daytona Beach. Again,
a building I have been to, and they do have a framed picture of Hulk Hogan there, and it's much bigger in person than you may believe when you see it on TV. So,
well, but let's get into the first match. We had Sting and Road Warrior Hawk defeated Ming and Kurosawa with Kunaraba Parker in 14 minutes and 27 seconds. What were your thoughts on this match?
I think, to me, when you look at Road Warrior Hawk here in 1995, and up until this time, Road Warrior Animal has been retired since 1992 due to a back injury. He's collecting that Lloyd's of London insurance policy. I think this would have been prime time for Hawk to change the gimmick, maybe kind of leave the Road Warriors in the past where they probably belong, and start fresh as a singles wrestler. Did not do that here, unfortunately. But again, it's a nice little angle match with Sting and Road Warrior Hawk with Ming and Kurosawa. I know Sting and Ming, which rhymes, funny, were engaged in a feud over the United States title, and Kurosawa breaks Hawk's arm. So it's it's pushing the angles here forward. Again, Robert Parker being a big deal in WCW at the time, and is still currently a big deal at MLW, so he's still around. Again, if you guys haven't seen Robert Fuller wrestle either in Memphis, Georgia, or Continental, do yourself a favor, check him out. The Tennessee Stud, he's fantastic.
Yes, he is not the Fantastics. He is fantastic. But
Yeah.
the next match, I mean, one of the wrestlers is fantastic. The other one's Alex Wright. Diamond Dallas Page with, God, the very hot Kimberly.
Ridiculous.
The Diamond Doll. They were in an angle. He's got an angle where it's like a $13 million. I didn't really
Yeah,
get
it was
that.
weird.
I didn't really get that. Bobby
She-
Heenan kept on referring to that. I didn't know.
I
Understand
know
how
the
it's done.
angle. The angle is like he wins the lotto, and he starts spending money like a crazy person, and he starts wearing fur coats. He says to Scar, but in reality, it was Kimberly who won the money, and then they break up, and then DDP is homeless. So one of the funny thing is like he loses all the money, so he starts wrestling in homeless people's trunks. Like it's ridiculous. But eventually they do get back together. To break apart again a couple of times.
I mean, I think I do remember that angle because they taped one of the vignettes where he was, begging for money was actually down the street from where I went to church down in downtown Atlanta. And I used to drive by it all the time. Like, yeah, that's where they taped it. It's one of those things that kind of old, kind of a WCW thing. I mean,
Yeah, the WCW vignettes were always cheesy, I would say, if you want to go back and look at the White Castle of Fear and the one where the midget blows up the boat and kills David Boy Smith and Sting, and Mick Foley's amnesia angle, Lost in Cleveland.
And Ric
their
Fla-
vignettes have always been cheesy.
Didn't Ric Flair go to the institute, like a mental
That's
institution?
hilarious because Scott Hall shows up there too, randomly. He's been off TV for like 6 months.
He faced.
When he thought he was the president of the United States because he was the president of WCW. That was probably the last good thing. Well, I wouldn't even say good, but at least entertaining thing that WCW did.
Yeah, I mean, and he defeated Dolph Lundgren and Alex Wright. I know you said that his father was a great wrestler.
Stephen Wright is a fantastic wrestler. Go watch his stuff on YouTube. You'll see some matches with him like in Tiger Mask that are just off the charts. He's doing like crazy stuff, with the British style wrestling, although he's German. But he's doing really, really cool stuff. Again, Alex Wright here, green as grass, has a good look to him and is very athletic. But I think he's one of those guys who got swallowed up when the NWO came to the forefront. A lot of guys' pushes were cut short.
Yeah,
Glacier
I
being one of
mean,
them.
the person that I wish had gotten swallowed up and
That's gross.
and put somewhere else is the Renegade. I mean, Jimmy Hart must have had it just been forced on, or he believed in the Renegade.
Well, the whole thing
He
was
was
like they were. I don't know if there were negotiations with the Ultimate Warrior and like kind of promoted him coming in. When we talk about Starrcade 90 at some point, we'll talk about how I thought the Black Scorpion was supposed to be the Ultimate Warrior. But there's a couple of times where they kind of false start with the Ultimate Warrior. And the Warrior at this time is like nowhere to be found. He's in and out of WWF. So like when they start like, hey, this could be the Ultimate Warrior and kind of making, at least veiled kind of references to him, it's legitimate that you think he's coming because he's not in WWF. But then the Renegade comes down and you're like, what the fuck is this shit?
And speaking of,
He beat Arn Anderson for the TV belt.
yeah, I mean, so either Arn pissed somebody off or they just decided this would be a great idea to put the belt on him. I mean, speaking of a guy who just always is in the wrong match at the wrong time, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. I mean, we talked last week, WrestleMania 2, he was in a match that he should not have been in. And now, 1995, he's in another match that he shouldn't be in.
Guys, I want you to, while you're listening to this, go to YouTube and type in Gary Spivey and Paul Orndorff. And it's one of the most hilarious things I've seen in my entire life. Now, Paul Orndorff was doing this angle where he lost his confidence and he wasn't really Mr. Wonderful anymore. And then his psychic friend, Gary Spivey, comes in and gives him some great advice and lifts his spirit. And Paul Orndorff is running around like he's Mr. Wonderful again. Again, due to Paul's injury, we missed out on the Paul Orndorff versus Horseman feud that we would have gotten. Looked like they were setting up for that, and then the Horseman is the one that basically has in his career, kayfabe wise. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Paul did some good stuff in '90, and WCW did some good stuff with Smokey. He had that one really good match. If you guys ever seen it with Cactus Jack, that's fucking amazing. But at this point, like he's winding down his career and he's jobbing out here to the Renegade, which is sad for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the Renegade, but
He committed suicide.
yeah, because he got released by WCW and no one else wanted him, so he was like, fuck it.
He's a former stripper too. So, do you know that he was? You remember Fall Brawl '98, where they did the thing where like the Warriors in the ring, and then the smoke comes in, and then the Warrior comes out from the aisleway. The Renegade was the Ultimate Warrior's double.
Wow, see, folks, things you find out. You have to listen to Retro Wrestling Rewind every week because if not, you won't know information that you can share with your fellow coworkers around the water cooler.
By the way, the Ultimate Warrior's WCW run might have been the worst run of a main event type wrestler in any promotion in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, and speaking of things that were awful, it's not a match, or it's the Dungeon of Doom portion.
It's a segment on this show, which is amazing, by the way, because again, you got to watch the whole thing from Jump Street. When Kevin Sullivan turns on his brother, Evad Dave Sullivan, also known as the Equalizer, because he's a big Hulkamaric. They turn Sullivan heel from that. And then eventually they get the Avalanche, which they had to change the name to the Shark because of legal reasons. And then they had the Butcher, which was Brutus Beefcake. And together they were known as the Three Faces of Fear. After the Butcher loses his main event match at Starrcade for the world title with Hulk Hogan, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. He becomes the Zodiac Man and basically, Curtis Ikea calls Kevin Sullivan out to the wilderness and he gives him extra power and makes him the Taskmaster, and he gives him all these guys. Eventually it was Ming, but it wasn't Ming yet. It was Kamala. It was the Zodiac Man, which is Brutus Beefcake. Vader initially, but we'll see later on in the show that Vader turns babyface in this show. But the Dungeon of Doom is awesome, just for the simple fact that they have monster trucks and Conan.
I mean, the only good thing about the Dungeon of Doom was the Giant.
Well, no, I mean, don't forget about the fantastic Benoit Kevin Sullivan match, the Falls Count Anywhere match, and then they had like the Brian Pillman respect match with Kevin Sullivan. This is I Respect You, Booker Man. That's a big deal. The Giant did end up winning the world title at Halloween Havoc '95 after getting thrown off the roof and murdered by Hulk Hogan. That was during their Monster Truck Sumo match. But you did have the Shark, and I think Big Bubba eventually joined the Dungeon of Doom for a little bit. Hugh Morris would come in and what have you. And again, they're another group that was really kind of swallowed up by the NWO when they came in. So they were doing a Dungeon of Doom versus Horseman thing, and then once the NWO took a full hold, a lot of the angles that they had going into the later part of 1986 got scrapped. Glacier got scrapped. Alex Wright's push got scrapped. A lot of things ended up going to the wayside because he had to focus on the NWO, which was the right thing to do, by the way. But it's kind of you kind of go back like what would have been.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of fantasy booking, and I'm sorry. I love Kevin Sullivan. He was great in Florida. I mean, we're gonna kind of cover him in Championship Wrestling from Florida. And
he was doing the Florida gimmick, just PG'd up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just the whole. I don't know, the monster truck thing. Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. He ran over the motorcycle, and they had a monster truck sumo match. And the Dungeon of Doom had a giant monster truck, and Hulk Hogan had one with Hulkamania arms. I'm not saying it's good. What I am saying, it's fun.
Oh my God!
It is a lot of fun.
It was terrible. I mean, Brutus Barber Beefcake. Terrible.
Yes, no. The Zodiac Man.
Yes. No.
But eventually
no,
it was
yes.
found out that he was a spy in the Dungeon of Doom, still working for Hogan.
Oh my God.
It's
And
true.
then we
It's
had
true.
the Shark, who their Avalanche.
Remember when they shaved his beard and he was just John Tenta? He's like, I'm not a shark. I'm a man.
Oh my God. It's like people. I
When
mean,
we do 92 WWF, I'm going to go on my tirade on how Earthquake should have been a main event babyface.
oh my God. How, folks. You
He
know
was
what?
over.
Hey, I vote for us to talk about that in future episodes. Go to Twitter, tweet us at, follow us at the RW Rewind, and of course hashtag book that shit. That's the hashtag we're gonna put on there. Just folks, we will cover whatever.
They brought back Zeus.
Yeah, I mean, but folks,
Zeus.
I mean, I don't know. Take my advice.
96.
Or take advice. Yeah, take advice from a man who hates, beyond the shadow of a doubt, he hates that the Fabulous Freebirds had a great theme song.
They're not rock stars.
Well, folks, you need to go back and listen to the past episode when we talked about that. It was episode 3, segment 3. It was the end of the show.
No, that's bullshit because, listen, I love the Freebirds. I love Michael P.S. Hayes. I think Terry Gordy might have been the best wrestler in the world during his time, and Buddy Roberts was a good hand. At some point, when they thought they were no longer badasses from Bad Street, and they became a rock band with Jimmy Garvin and Rocky King, that's garbage.
And folks, we will be covering that in a future episode of Retro Wrestling Rewind. That should be a fun event. If we do cover that, would you have a lot of fun, nice things to say about the Fabulous Freebirds and their rock and roll band?
Bad Street, it was Brad Armstrong underneath the mask. That was awful.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel bad for Brad Armstrong because he was also Arachnoman too, which was the Spider-Man ripoff.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I think that's another thing that will, folks, if,
Remember when Michael Hayes was Doc Hendricks and he was awful?
yes. And you remember when Michael P.S. Hayes dressed really stupid? Oh, yeah, that's now.
I thought you meant when he dressed up like a Hardy Boy.
Well, no, I mean, he
Remember
went
he was the manager of the Hardy Boys?
and he went to Conrad and Megan Flair's wedding, and he freaking wore a fanny pack. I mean, really, the only people.
I'm just saying, if I was Michael Hayes, I'd probably dress exactly the same way.
Yeah, man, because no one's gonna say, "Hey, Michael, you look
No,
like an
it's
idiot."
Michael Hayes.
Michael freaking P.S. Purely sexy.
At least he
Hayes.
didn't go on a racist tirade at the wedding.
No.
Or I heard he peed on Linda McMahon's foot one time at a wedding because he was so drunk. Did you buy his Christian album? Because I heard it's awesome.
No, I did not. But I did buy the Fabulous Freebirds, because they are rock stars. I bought their vinyl, their LP, their.
The one where it's Michael Hayes naked on the rebel flag? That's weird, man.
I have it hanging up here in the studio. It's.
I know you would have.
I have it framed.
It went double wood. It wasn't released, it escaped.
Oh God. Anyway, moving on to match number 4. Had the Harlem Heat. This was a 6-man.
Intergender
Actually, no.
match.
It was a 5-man, 1-woman match. It was Harlem Heat. That would be great. Five-time Booker T and his brother Stevie Ray and sister Sherry defeated Bunkhouse Buck and the aforementioned Dick Slater, who unfortunately
Or Dirty Dick, if you want to be legitimate about it.
I mean, I don't know about that, but
That's what his name was.
oh, okay. He, of course, unfortunately passed away this past week. But they had also Colonel Robert Parker, who, as you know, and as Alex G has said, and I know because I've seen him as this, as Robert Fuller. I mean,
Right, the half Kentucky Fried Chicken, half Elvis
he was a
manager.
great wrestler, but as Bobby Heenan said on this program, he doesn't have his wrestling boots and wrestling tights on. He just has his regular. I think Tony Schiavone also said this: going to church or whatever. And he said he had his sleeves rolled up. He said he's ready for a fight. What were your thoughts on this match? It went 14 minutes and 31 seconds.
I mean, Booker T at this time was amazing. Like he is like just at another level in terms of work rate in the ring. Now Stevie Ray is terrible. We know that, but it didn't matter because they had like this Heart Foundation type thing where they had like Stevie Ray was doing all like the muscle stuff and Booker T was doing all like the cool shit. Harley and Heat in general is a fantastic tag team. I really dug them for a very long time, and putting Sherry with them just gave them another element. Just they took them to the next level, and Sherry is insane. Like
Yeah.
she was doing stuff as a female manager that men managers were not doing. She was taking crazy bumps. She's going off the top rope. She's like Hogan beat the shit out of her for like 3 years straight. She's taking a beat in the ring, and she loved every minute of it. So you knew that Sherry was legitimate tough. Now she's sort of not a baby face, but WCW was weird at this time because they had like tweeners a lot of the times around this era too, which was weird. But you know, in this instance, probably the fans were like, we like Harlem Heat and Sherry. Again, you have Bunkhouse Buck, who's a fantastic worker. Have you ever seen his stuff outside of WCW? Jimmy Golden, part of the Fuller Welch Golden Wrestling Dynasty. Really good worker. He just looks like he smells like shit, though.
Yeah, I mean,
he looks like a farm hand that will beat the hell out of you.
Me and Gene Okerlund they was interviewing him on the show, and he said I think he said it smells like gas or something, and it was just I mean they were great wrestlers. I mean it was an okay match, but
I mean you had Dick Slater here. Dick Slater, one of the preeminent workers of the '80s, big personality. Got over wherever he went, would it be Florida, would it be Georgia, would it be, just about every place he went, minus the WWF, where he was there for a short run as the Rebel of Dick Slater. I don't know how they had him as a baby face too in WWF with the Rebel flag in the Northeast. I didn't think that was going to work for them very well.
No, but speaking of, I mean, the main event had Vader taking on Double A Arn Anderson, and probably the greatest talker in the history of this great sport, the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Where's Harley Race?
I don't know.
Like Harley Race, he was Vader's manager for a long time, and then he disappeared. Again, we're going into the Vader face turn here. So you have him and Anderson and Flair, which is weird to me. Watching back this match, it's Flair who looks like the heel, and it looks like Arn is the babyface, right?
Yeah.
When they split.
Yeah.
But they go the other way. They go Flair is the babyface and Arn is the heel. And that made no sense to me. It was very, very strange. I do like this match a lot because it really put over Arn Anderson because he got Vader up for that spine buster. He hit him with the DDT. I want to see a Vader versus Arn Anderson solo match because I think that would have been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely. I mean, Arn should have. I mean, we'll kind of do some.
Could you realistically put the world title on him? I think it had to be at a certain moment, and you have to go back through history and try to find that particular moment.
I mean, I think it was mid. I think it was mid, like 85, 86. I mean,
I would go later. I would go as an adversary for Sting, like in '92.
I don't know about that. I mean, have you seen
like post Luger?
His stuff in early NWA when he first came in? I mean, he
looks like he's 50 years old, but he was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was from Rome, Georgia, but you would never know that. But I mean, he was
because you couldn't tell that he had no like Minneapolis accent because he had this thick Southern accent being from Minneapolis.
It was 1980s, but I mean, I could have put in the world title on him. But I mean, overall, what were your thoughts of this match and just kind of the whole entire Clash 31?
Well, you look at this match in general. Again, I think it's a showcase for Arn. I don't know why they went the other way and had Arn be the heel with Flair as the babyface. Eventually, Flair would become a babyface and then turn on Sting for like the 12th time, which is ridiculous. Vader was going to team up with Hogan and be one of Hogan's pals going into the War Games. Unfortunately, Vader was fired. I think this is when they had the fight with Orndorff, and he got fired / quit, and he went to WWF. So they actually put Luger in that spot, and And from the looks of it, they were going to do the same angle with Vader that they did with Luger. Like, I don't know if I can trust you, blah, blah, blah. And then you would have Vader as this tweener. But Vader's reaction as a babyface was huge. Like, they really could have done something. It reminds me of when they were about to turn Rude babyface the year before, and then Rude got hurt.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
But I think overall, in terms of the clash, this is the last clash before Nitro. So the first episode of Nitro would have been on Labor Day of 1995. So this is the last pre-Nitro clash. And you'll see their overall importance decrease as they add more pay-per-views, how they add more hours to the shows. And eventually with the advent of Thunder, the last clash was in 97. So again, in 2 years, there wouldn't be any more clashes, which is sad because the Clash of Champions, much like Saturday Night's Main Event, was kind of a staple of not only Crockett, but WCW.
Yeah, I loved clashes because they were free. They were on TBS, the Superstation. It was just, it was a staple of, my...
They would pull big ratings,
It was a staple of my, high school, as they would say, my...
I remember I was watching one clash. The main event was Ric Flair versus Scott Steiner. And I was trying so hard to stay up because I had school in the morning, and I couldn't make it through. I fell asleep watching that show.
Yeah, I'm sure it was worth it. It was a heyday of, WCW. But, speaking of great things, before we end the program, this is episode number 9, folks. Next week we have episode number 10. I think I'm gonna, do a giveaway. If you we're hashtagging it, we've made it to 10. If you follow us on Twitter and put that hashtag.
And you should, by the way.
You definitely should follow us at the RW Rewind. We pick your name and your Twitter handle. We're going to give away a free, yes, I said free, Retro Wrestling Rewind t-shirt where the brand new, you'll be the first one. They're going to be numbered. It's going to be epic. But, if you want to follow us, like I said, it's the RW Rewind on Twitter. We are at RetroWrestlingRewind.com on the internet. And, of course, if people, before we end the program, if they want to follow you on Twitter for your Retro Wrestling Games show, how do they do that?
You can join the over 3,000 followers that RW Games presents on Twitter. Again, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Just type in Retro Wrestling Games, or the first thing that pops up. So just make sure you hit the like button, you subscribe, and you hit the little bell so you're notified when our next shows are released.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a thing I watch, every time.
And you should. It's the greatest thing ever.
It is the greatest thing ever. But this is, also the guy.
What's the next show?
You know what the next show is? Halloween Havoc, 1995. That was your pick.
I know, because it comes right after the heels of this show. And it's more Dungeons of Doom goodness for everyone. There's monster trucks on this show.
Hey, folks. This
is
Hey, as you notice, each and every week, I say this episode is probably the greatest episode, of all time. It's probably better than the next one before. No, this one will not be great.
It'll be glorious.
No, it will not be great. It will be if you want to hear us almost kill each other on the air. Listen to episode number 10. And it's coming up next week. We're going to be covering WCW's Halloween Havoc 1995 with more.
We get to talk about Nitro. We get to talk about Lex Luger. We'll talk about the Mall of America. We want to talk monster trucks. We want to see a giant be resurrected from the dead. We want to see a Yeti. It's going to be fantastic.
Well, God, I wish the Fantastics were on there. But, for the aforementioned Mark of the Dungeon of Doom, Alex G. I am David Fine. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 9 of Retro Wrestling Rewind. Next week, we will be into double digits. Yes, that's right, folks. We will be episode number 10. Remember, hashtag we made it to 10. We'll give away some free merchandise. We'll pick that up, and we will announce it on episode number 11. If you listen to episode number 10 and you tweet us after that, We're announcing an episode number 11. So we will see you back here next week, same time, same podcast channel for an all new edition of Retro Wrestling Rewind. We'll see you back here next week.